The Lantern Week preparations filled Willowgate Square with color and warmth. Children painted stars on paper lanterns, shopkeepers tied ribbons, and the air smelled of cinnamon and clove. At exactly 7 o'clock, the town clock began to chime. 1, 2, 3. Until 7, and then, unexpectedly, an 8th note rang out, clear and bright. Most people laughed. Larkspur the baker joked it meant one more cookie for everyone, and life went on. But Myra Hales, assistant at the town library, froze in place and counted again on her fingers. 8 at 7, she whispered, sensing that this wasn't a mistake, but a signal. Theo Wren, grandson of the town's clockmaker, rolled up on his bicycle. Sawdust clung to his trousers, his hands smelling faintly of oil and brass. "Granddad's repairs don't slip," he said. If the clock rang wrong, it was meant to. Mira nodded. And just when the mayor is about to unveil the original town charter at the festival. Too neat to be random. Her eyes wandered upward to the raven-shaped weathervane atop the tower, iron wings folded, forever watching the town. Later, as she closed the library, Mira found a page slipped inside Willowgate recipes and remedies. Neat handwriting declared, "Count what is extra, not what is owed. Seek where the town once breathed steam and rode. When time rings wrong, listen behind. A raven will mark what the careful can find." At the bottom was a sketch of a raven. Myra's heart gave a quick jump. Someone had planted a riddle, and the strange chime was its first clue. She showed Theo the page outside under the lantern glow. He frowned, thoughtful. Steam and road, that has to mean the old depot, back when trains still came through. Together, they followed the riverside path. The depot, now an art space, was quiet except for posters fluttering in the evening air. Inside stood a traveling trunk with a sign, "Please explore interactive exhibit." Within were 4 brass tokens stamped with ravens and numbers. Only the one marked 2 was missing. On the rim of another token, Theo spotted tiny letters. Behind the eye. In the trunk's lining, Mira uncovered more. Index every 4th. Her librarian's instinct flared. The clue pointed back to the cookbook's index. By the time they returned, lanterns bobbed like small moons in the square. Myra flipped through the cookbook, tracing every 4th entry. Letters emerged. "De year de Gervienne." She and Theo exchanged a look. Outside, the raven atop the tower was just a silhouette against the stars, but it suddenly seemed less decoration and more. Guardian. And when the clock chimed again, striking 5 at 8:30, Mira felt certain. The tower was speaking in riddles, and someone wanted them to listen. The next morning, Willowgate buzzed with festival excitement. Stalls were already being built. The smell of roasted nuts carried through the square, and children rehearsed their lantern songs. Yet amid the cheer, the clock tower struck again, this time 6 chimes at 8 o'clock. Myra froze on the library steps. "It's wrong again," she murmured. "Now it's short by 2. Theo, arriving with a satchel full of gears and notebooks, frowned. First extra, now missing. Someone setting a pattern. They returned to the library and spread the mysterious note, the cookbook, and Theo's magnifier on a desk. "Count what is extra, not what is owed," Myra read aloud. 8 at 7 gave us +1. 6 at 8, -2. Are these numbers guiding us? Theo unfolded the town map, smoothing its creases with careful hands. Second line, "Seek where the town once breathed steam and rode." That's the depot, no doubt. But maybe there's more. Maybe each number tells us where to look next. To test the theory, Myra revisited the cookbook's index. Following the M-2 instruction, she slid her ruler back 2 entries from their earlier discovery. The letters spelled A-L, Town Hall, she whispered. "Where the charter will be displayed." Theo's brow knit. So the riddle is pushing us toward the very heart of the festival. That afternoon, they went to the depot again. hoping to connect the dots. The trunk still sat in the art space, velvet compartments unchanged. But this time, Mira noticed a scrap of folded paper wedged between the lining and the wood. She carefully teased it out, a fragment torn from the same thick, embossed paper as before. On it was sketched again the raven, but now with one wing raised. Beneath, a single word. Listen. Theo tapped the sketch. Behind the weathervane. That has to be the key. Maybe there's something hidden in the tower itself. Mira felt a thrill, half curiosity, half nervousness. The clock tower wasn't usually open to townsfolk, only the clockmaker's family. But the festival brought exceptions, maintenance, decorations, speeches. If they were careful, they could find a way inside. As evening fell, lanterns began to glow across the river, and the clock prepared to strike again. Mira and Theo stood beneath it, waiting. This time, the tower rang 9 times at exactly 9 o'clock correct, for once. The townspeople cheered, thinking the odd behavior had ended. But Mira tilted her head, listening to the echo fade. She swore she heard a faint second sound, like a hidden bell answering from deep inside the tower. It was softer, almost secret, and only rang 3 times. She turned to Theo, her eyes wide. That wasn't a mistake. That was a signal. Someone wants us to hear both clocks, the one everyone hears, and the one only the careful notice. The morning after the double chime, Willowgate felt almost too ordinary. Market stalls bustled, fiddlers practiced festival songs, and children darted around with lantern poles like jousting knights. Only Mira and Theo carried the knowledge that the tower had 2 voices, one public, one secret. Theo's grandfather, Master Wren, polished the shop's front clock when they entered. His hands were as steady as his tools, his spectacles perched low on his nose. "Festival's keeping you busy?" he asked, eyeing the satchel Mira carried. "Busy with questions," Theo replied carefully. "Granddad, is there another bell in the tower?" The old clockmaker paused mid-polish. His silence was brief, but enough. He adjusted his glasses. "Long ago, there was a secondary chime, yes. A smaller bell used as a test when repairs were done. It hasn't been struck in decades?" He narrowed his gaze. "Why do you ask?" Mira stepped forward, pulling out the raven sketch. "Because it is striking again. 3 times, softly, after the main chime." Master Wren's expression tightened, though not with anger, more with recognition. "Then someone has found the inner mechanism. And that means someone has the key to the hatch behind the weathervane." Mira and Theo exchanged a quick glance. The riddle was becoming clearer. That evening, under the lantern-lit sky, they approached Town Hall. Preparations for the charter unveiling filled the air with chatter, and the mayor rehearsed her speech on the steps. Mira pretended to help adjust decorations, while Theo slipped around to the maintenance door at the tower as base. It was locked, as expected, but on the cobblestones just below the lock lay something small and metallic. Theo bent down and picked it up. A brass token numbered 2, stamped with the raven. "The missing piece from the depot trunk," Mira whispered. "It's been planted here for us." Theo's hand tightened around it, or for anyone paying attention. When the square cleared for the night, they returned. Mira held her breath as Theo fitted the token into a small notch beside the door's handle. A faint click answered, and the latch gave way. The door creaked open, revealing a spiral staircase coiling upward into darkness. Inside, the air smelled of dust, oil, and old wood. Their lantern cast long shadows on the walls as they climbed. Halfway up, Mira spotted another scrap of embossed paper tucked behind a rung. On it was written, "Not all clocks tell hours. Some keep secrets. Follow the raven's wing." At the top, they emerged into the clock chamber. Gears the size of wagon wheels ticked with measured grace, their steady rhythm almost like breathing. And there, just behind the weathervane's post, was a narrow iron hatch with a raven etched into its hinge. Mira touched it with reverence. "Behind the weathervane," she whispered. Theo reached for the latch, but before he could pull it open, the clock struck 10. The main bell thundered, but beneath it, soft and secret, the smaller bell answered again, this time 4 notes. Myra's pulse quickened. The message was still unfolding. The hatch was narrow, tucked into the wooden beams like a hidden heartbeat. Dust collected along its edges, and the raven engraving seemed almost alive in the glow of Mira's lantern. Theo ran his fingers over the hinge. "No ordinary lock," he murmured. "It needs something more precise." Myra produced the brass token they had found near the door. "Number 2, she said. "Maybe it's not just a clue, it's a key." Carefully, Theo slid the token into a shallow notch beneath the raven's wing. A click echoed softly, and the hatch creaked open to reveal a compartment hardly larger than a shoebox. Inside lay an envelope, aged and brittle, sealed with wax pressed in the shape of the same raven. Mira's breath caught. "This has been waiting a long time." They sat cross-legged on the wooden floorboards, gears ticking steadily around them. Theo broke the seal with his pocket knife and unfolded the letter. The handwriting was old but firm. To the people of Willowgate, time is not only measured, it is remembered. When the bells strike wrong, it is to remind you to seek what was promised. Guard the charter, for without it, the heart of our town is lost. Signed only with the initials E, W. Mira read the words twice. Guard the charter. That's why all the clues point toward Town Hall. Someone feared it would vanish. Theo looked uneasy. But who is E.W.? And why start the chimes now after all these years? Before Mira could answer, the smaller bell rang again. 4 soft notes, as if echoing their discovery. Beneath its hum, they heard something else, the faint scrape of movement on the staircase below. Theo doused the lantern instantly, leaving them in shadow. They held their breath as quiet footsteps climbed slow, deliberate. The air seemed to thicken with each creak of the stairs. Whoever it was stopped just short of the chamber, and for a long moment there was only silence. Then the footsteps retreated, fading back down the tower. Mira exhaled shakily. "We're not the only ones following the trail." Theo nodded grimly. "And whoever they are, they know this place." They decided to hide the letter for now, tucking it back behind the hatch, but keeping the broken wax seal as proof. When they returned to the square, lanterns bobbed across the river like stars set free, and music from the practice band drifted through the night. To the townsfolk, everything was ordinary. But Mira and Theo knew. A shadow was moving with them, watching the same clues, waiting for the same answers. And as the festival drew closer to the unveiling of the charter, the riddles of the clock were no longer a game, they were a warning. The next day, Willowgate Square brimmed with excitement. Stalls offered candied apples, fiddlers played cheerful reels, and the mayor's staff rehearsed the unveiling ceremony again and again. Yet Mira and Theo carried the weight of the raven's letter. Guard the charter. The words echoed with every strike of the clock. At noon, the tower rang correctly 12 deep notes. But after the crowd's applause faded, Mira strained her ears. The smaller bell whispered softly, only once. A solitary chime, almost shy, but deliberate. Theo scribbled the sequence in his notebook. 7 o'clock gives extra 1. 8 o'clock gives -2. 9 o'clock gives correct. 10 o'clock gives hidden 4. 12 o'clock gives hidden 1. A code, he muttered. Steps in a trail. Someone designed this like gears fitting together. Their thoughts were interrupted when a tall figure in a dark coat drifted through the crowd. Mira noticed, because no one else seemed to notice. The figure moved like a shadow, pausing near the town hall steps, then at the baker's stall, always keeping to the edges. And each time the clock chimed, the figure's head tilted, listening. Mira tugged Theo's sleeve. "We're not imagining it." Someone else is following the bells. Theo set his jaw. We'll follow them. But it wasn't easy. The square overflowed with festival-goers, laughter, and music. The figure slipped between groups like smoke, never stopping long enough to confront. Finally, at the far end of the square, near the river path, they vanished around a corner. Mira and Theo hurried after only to find the alley empty, save for a folded paper pinned under a loose cobblestone, the same thick, embossed kind as before. Mira unfolded it with careful hands. A raven sketch, this one mid-flight, wings spread. Beneath it, 3 words. The hall first. Theo frowned. They're warning us? Or challenging us? Before they could decide, bells rang again. 2 in the afternoon. The main bell gave 2 confident strikes, but the hidden bell whispered 3 times. Myra's pulse quickened. It's getting faster. Whoever is behind this wants us ready before the unveiling. As evening settled, Mira sat by her bedroom window, overlooking the square, notebook open, recording every pattern. Down below, lanterns swayed, children sang, and the clock tower loomed with its iron raven. Somewhere in that structure, another mind was working against, or maybe alongside them. She whispered the words from the letter. Time is remembered. Then she made a quiet promise. We will guard the charter. We will solve this before whoever hides in the shadows makes their move. The following morning, Town Hall grinned with anticipation. Workers polished the brass railings, draped banners across balconies, and placed a tall glass case at the center of the chamber. By evening, the town charter, the oldest record of Willowgate, would rest inside it for the unveiling. Mira and Theo slipped in under the guise of library helpers. Mira carried a stack of catalog papers, Theo a small toolkit. The mayor's assistant gave them a quick nod, too busy directing decorations to ask questions. Inside, the hall smelled of lemon polish and old wood. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, pooling across the glass case. But the case was still empty, waiting for the arrival of the charter from the archives. Myra's eyes lingered on the raised dais. This is what the raven warned about. Someone plans to tamper with the charter. Theo leaned close. Look there. He pointed to the carved molding above the case. Tiny raven motifs repeated in the woodwork, details most wouldn't notice. One of them, slightly darker, seemed newer. Theo climbed onto the dais, pretending to adjust a banner, and pressed it gently. The carving shifted inward with a faint click. A narrow drawer slid open, hidden in the dais itself. Inside lay another slip of embossed paper. This one read, When the past is unguarded, the present falters. Count the bells. Protect the promise. Mira tucked it quickly into her satchel before anyone saw. Her heartbeat raced. The promise, it must mean the founding oath, written into the charter. If it's altered or stolen, it changes who Willowgate is. Before Theo could reply, a voice startled them. Finding the festival decorations interesting, are we? They spun around. It was the figure in the dark coat, now close enough for Mira to see a shadowed face beneath a brimmed hat. The person's voice was calm, even polite. You hear the bells, too. Good. Then you'll understand this town is about to repeat its mistakes unless someone intervenes. Theo stepped in front of Mira. Who are you? But the figure only gave a small bow. A keeper of time like you? Follow the chimes, and you'll see. Then, with surprising swiftness, they slipped through the side door and were gone, leaving only the echo of their words. Mira and Theo exchanged a look heavy with questions. They had confirmation now. Someone else was working the riddles. Someone who believed they were protecting the town, but in what way? As they left the hall, the tower struck 11. The main bell tolled, but underneath, the secret bell whispered 5 times. The pattern was growing more urgent, more insistent, as if counting down to the unveiling itself. Myra tightened her grip on her satchel. we don't have much time. Tonight, we decode everything. By tomorrow, we need to be ready because when the charter is placed in that case, the true game begins. That night, Mira spread every clue across the long oak table in the library. The raven sketches, the embossed slips of paper, Theo's careful notes of the clock's irregular strikes. The lamplight made the papers glow like scattered lanterns. Theo traced the sequence again. 7 o'clock gives 8 chimes, plus 1. 8 o'clock gives 6 chimes, minus 2. 9 o'clock gives correct O. 10 o'clock gives hidden 4. 12 o'clock gives hidden 1. 2 o'clock gives hidden 3. 11 o'clock gives hidden 5. It's forming a path, he said, not random. Like a code word spelling itself through numbers. Mira leaned on her elbows, hair falling forward as she scanned the cookbook index. Each number pointed her to a different letter when she counted carefully. After an hour of cross-checking, she sat back with a jolt. It spells oath. Theo's pencil froze. The founding oath in the charter. Mira nodded slowly. That's what someone is after. If they change even a single word, the meaning of Willowgate's promise could shift. Land rights, heritage, maybe even ownership of the square. No wonder the Raven riddle says guard the charter. They worked late, piecing scraps together. Each raven drawing seemed to mark progress. Perched, wings folded, then one wing raised, then flying. The progression mirrored their discoveries, first noticing, then uncovering, then action. Whoever left the trail wanted them to reach the truth before the festival's final day. Near midnight, the clock struck again. Outside, the town slept under a quilt of lantern glow, but Mira and Theo listened. The main bell tolled 12 times. Then the hidden bell rang 6 soft notes. Theo wrote it down, then looked up, pale. If the numbers have been counting upward, 1, 2, 4, 5, this 6 means we're nearly at the end. Like a countdown toward the unveiling. Mira felt a chill. And tomorrow is the day the charter arrives. She gathered the papers into her satchel, her resolve hardening. We'll be there when they bring it in. Whatever this shadow figure wants, we'll stop them. The oath must remain whole. Theo closed the library windows, listening to the steady breathing of the night. Then tomorrow, he said, we meet time on its own ground. Festival day dawned bright, the river alive with lanterns that bobbed like floating suns. Willowgate bustled with joy, but Mira and Theo's hearts thudded faster than the fiddler's reels. Today, the town charter would be placed in the glass case at Town Hall, and the final clue would sound. They arrived early. The hall buzzed with preparations, banners shining, brass polished, and townsfolk streaming in. The mayor stood proudly on the dais. At her side, archivists carried the charter, a rolled parchment bound in ribbon, older than any living citizen. Mira's eyes flicked to the rafters. Shadows stretched across the woodwork. Somewhere up there, she felt, their mysterious rival was waiting. Then the clock struck noon. 12 bold chimes filled the hall, followed by the secret bell's 7 soft notes, each one like a heartbeat. The code was complete. Theo whispered urgently, 7 letters. Another word. He flipped to the index, Mira guiding his hand. Together they spelled it out. Betray. Mira's stomach tightened. Someone plans to betray the oath right now. As the mayor reached for the ribbon on the charter, a crash echoed from above. The dark-coated figure leapt from the rafters, landing near the dais. Gasps swept the crowd. Guards rushed forward, but the figure raised a hand, not with a weapon, but with a slip of the same embossed paper. The oath is incomplete, the voice rang out. The original charter was altered generations ago. Willowgate has been living a half-truth. Chaos rippled through the hall. Mira's mind raced. Was it possible? She and Theo had only seen warnings, not proof. Theo stepped forward boldly. If you have evidence, show it, but don't steal from the people. The figure hesitated, then looked at Mira, Their eyes met steady, almost pleading. With deliberate care, the stranger dropped the slip of paper into Mira's hands before the guards restrained them. On it was written, "The raven keeps the original oath." Behind the bells, Mira's breath caught. She understood. The hatch behind the weathervane had held more than letters. There was something else hidden there. Within the hour, Mira and Theo convinced the mayor to let them climb the tower. Together with Master Wren, they opened the raven hatch fully. Behind the gears, wrapped in oilcloth, lay a second parchment, fragile but real. It was the original oath, written in a different hand, words intact. Side by side, they compared it to the charter in the hall. The differences were small, but meaningful. One phrase that shifted land stewardship from a single family to the entire town. The raven riddle had been right. The promise was at stake. That evening, under lantern light, the mayor unveiled both parchments. Willowgate learned the truth, not of betrayal, but of correction. The town cheered, not angry but proud, as if time itself had handed them back their story. Mira and Theo stood beneath the clock tower, listening as it chimed exactly, perfectly, 12 times. No hidden bell answered. Its message was finished. Theo grinned. "Looks like the raven finally rests." Mira smiled, clutching the embossed slips that had led them here. "Or waits," she said softly, "until the town forgets again." Above them, the iron raven faced the stars, silent guardian of Willowgate's promise.